Hello, guys.
How are you? Welcome to the RubyConf Brazil.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Nice. And you can share your screen to start.
Okay. So 1 second, let me set up everything. Sure.
E pessoal, se vocês tiverem alguma dúvida, pode mandar em português que a gente traduz aqui, tá? Então, now, Ivan and modern make for modern Rails developer. Thank you, Ivan. And
so yeah, I'm glad to be here. So this is not going to be a regular talk. This is more like a mini crash course into the approach I'm using for 2 years already, and I'm super happy about it. So a little bit about me. I'm using Ruby since 2006. I'm a former GitLabber. I'm call myself Serbian Siberian because I'm originally from Russia, but I live in Serbia these days. I do a lot of speaking and a lot of teaching, and I'm the author of the website railshearts.com. And I also did a lot of freelancing and consulting, and on painlessrails.com, I describe the approach I'm using to organize code and complexity in Rails applications. So recently I joined a small Swiss startup called Urban Connect, where I take care of the backend. And on this project and on every project I'm dealing with, I actually use the approach I'm going to talk about today. So what to expect here? First of all, we will talk what's the problem we are trying to solve. Then we're going to talk about the basics of make, and then we'll dive deeper into some advanced stuff. And of course, I will show examples from real projects and how I use this approach. And we'll finish with the principles which you should follow if you want to get the most of this approach. And first of all, like when I start talking to people about make, many of them start to question, like, seriously, make in 2020? You even remember this ancient tool? But in fact, most probably you know about make because one day you tried to compile something from sources, but these days we do it less and less, so probably you don't even remember that such tool exists. But from this graph, you can see that actually 25% of people in this voted for always. So they kind of use this approach, and we'll now learn how. So what's the problem actually? And to figure out what is the problem, we should talk what does it mean to be a modern developer. And being modern developer means that you can't only care about your Rails stack, you also have to care about operations. You have to know how to deploy your stuff, how to run backups and all this kind of stuff. Also, we have JavaScript in our Rails, so we can't simply use Rails without taking care of Webpack and Yarn and all these JavaScript packages. So we're using 2 stacks of technologies. And also chances are high that you have to deal with multiple projects. Either you are freelancing part-time on several projects at the same time, or your product is a set of small projects, and they can be also like deployed differently. They can be built in different technologies, and also, of course, multiple different environments. I can develop on my local machine. I can use Docker for development, or I can use remote machine and develop there. So all this adds a lot of complexity, and also we use a lot of different command line tools in order to deal with all these different technologies, environments, and so on. So this is just a short list of command line tools you use on a daily basis. And if you start listing their help pages, so you will see that a lot of them, so basically all of them have their own keys, their own configurations, and so on and so on. And this is what you need to know in order to be productive. But still, what's the problem? The problem might look like this, that on one day you find yourself typing commands like this in your command line in order to do something. So this is a command I used to deploy one of my projects in the past. And this looks a little bit annoying. So this is an Ansible Playbook. And the problem is it is all about details. It's more like imperative, but not declarative. It tells how I want to deploy it, where to take all this little stuff, but it doesn't tell me what I'm doing actually. So yeah, so it's about implementation, how deploy is implemented here, but not about semantics. It means that we have to remember all of these low-level details, how exactly we should run all these command line commands. And we have our readmes filled with recipes like this, and often they become outdated and no one takes care of them, and you go into the project and you don't know how to run stuff there. So wouldn't it be cool if instead of this we could do just that? And we actually can. So the only thing you need to do is to open your project, and I encourage you to do it right now. You can do it. So here, let's create a make file. It looks like I have one, but replace. Yeah, let's create a make file. Let's just put a shortcut here and put your command here, like your command, the command you use to deploy your project. And after that, you will be able to run make deploy. And let me do it. So I just copy and paste it here and I run make deploy. And it just works. So it doesn't work because it's a blank project, it's an empty project, and it doesn't have this playbook, but it actually executes the whole thing. So another example, you might find yourself that in a situation where to run the tests, it's no longer to simply run Rails tests. You have to provide different kind of keys. And here you do the same. So you just add this to your make file. And after that, you can run make test and it will work. And actually, that's it. So this is the whole idea of the approach I wanted to show. And for some of you, it will be like, well, we knew it already. But for the rest of you who didn't know this approach, it can actually be like, it can blow your mind because it really helps to think more about what you are trying to do and not how are you trying to do this. Imagine you have different projects and different ways to deploy it and different ways to run tests, but you go between those projects and you know how to run the deploy. In every project, you just do make deploy and you don't care how exactly it is done. And the same about test and other commands. You start thinking about semantics of what you are doing, but not about all those implementation details. All right, but I guess I still have some time. So I'm going to demonstrate more examples on how I deal with make, how I use it, and how I write it. And the first thing here is that actually, if you try to execute it, we'll get an error. And error is kind of strange. It says like, test is up to date. What does it even mean? Like, why this one worked and this one didn't? So, and the thing is that actually make was developed for a different purpose. Originally, it was developed in order to build stuff, and here I actually don't use original make terminology. I intentionally use the word shortcut, but if you ever read make documentation, this thing called target, but we will not use this original terminology intentionally. So what happens here is that make just assumes that when we're running this shortcut, it just assumes that it just sees that we already have this test folder, and it means that for make, it means that no need to execute this command because result is already built. So there is a way to overcome this, and there is this special shortcut called phony, and you simply list all the folders and files you want make to ignore. And here, like for example, after we put test and db, and after that, if we run make test, it will work. So first it prints the command and then it executes it. So again, it's a blank project, so nothing here is actually executed, but you see the idea. So more examples. For example, I want to look at my development logs. Here you go. And let's say, so there's one thing that always annoys me a lot. So let's do it next. First thing, for example, we want to, let me try it, git push. Yeah, it will work. Git checkout -b and let's say feature name. So for me, this one doesn't have any meaning too. Like, why should I remember that this strange flag -b? I prefer to have something like this. I just want to say make branch. So make me a branch, and yeah, I just wanted to do it for me, and the way I can do it is like this. So I need to use variables for that, and feature name, and I guess this should work. Yeah, it worked, but there's the next thing. Whenever I try to do git push, it annoys me with this message. I don't know how about you, but for me, like, it annoys me every single time. I just want you to push this branch to GitHub or GitLab, and that's it. Why do I have to care about every single new branch you want me to run this command? And on every server where I'm working with my application, you want me to do this. I don't want to do it. All I want to do is to run, and all I'm doing is make push. But in order to do it, what we need to do actually, so we need to do something like this, right? But it looks like we have to get this branch dynamically somehow. And I have a command here, and currently I'm taking all those commands from my personal cheat sheet, but how I work it with this usually. So whenever I want to do something in command line, I simply go to Google and I find some page on Stack Overflow and I copy the command. And usually we just run it once and forget it. And the next time we want to do it, we do the same. So, and this way we are wasting a lot of time. And what I do in these days, I'm just copying these commands from Stack Overflow, and I'm using them here. So I'm just pasting them into my make file. Even if they are relevantly useless, I prefer to keep them here and I usually also put a link to the Stack Overflow here so that I can look for details later. So let's see if it works. Yeah, it works. And also, like you see, it constantly keeps printing the command it executes. If you don't want it, you can use this syntax, and after that, it will not print it. It will just show you the output. All right, but what about our make push? How to do it? So in order to make it work, we actually need to use variables, and it looks like this. There is another special syntax for this. We actually taking this command and putting it here, and after that we can use this branch variable here. And now let's see if it works. Voila, it worked. So this is how I solve my problems with make. And let me show you something more stuff. So regarding this, and this we probably don't need. We can comment it or delete. It's for you to decide. Regarding this make branch thing, so currently it looks like this, but ideally we want it to look like this, right? So we don't really care about this variable name. We don't want to remember it because it looks more like this. And there is a solution for it too, and it involves a bit of black magic, and I will just put it here, this kind of magic. And I will not explain it at the moment, but you can Google for it and see for explanation. What it gives us is that after that, we can just use this variable, which we define here, in any recipe, in any shortcut. And let's try it. And it worked. There is a downside of this approach, and the downside is that it starts to show this error message because it, well, I will not explain why, but this is a side effect of this black magic thing. And you might decide for yourself not to use it, but for myself, I decided that I really want this semantic. I really want this to look semantically, and because of this, I am willing to pay this price of seeing these nasty error messages every time. So, but it's up to you. So we solved this problem as well, and let me show you some more stuff. For example, another annoying thing is stashing for me. So how I do stashing. So what I don't like about git stash without any parameters is that if I have something which is added to stage but not committed yet, and I run git stash, it will be stashed as well. I don't like this behavior, and one day I found this recipe which keeps the staged files untouched and only stashes the rest. And And now I simply run make stash, and it works. I will not do it at the moment because it will stash our make file because it's not committed. And actually we can. Let's actually do it. So if we add it to stage and run make stash, it should work, I guess. Let's see. So yeah, it worked. So it stashed everything. It kept stuff which is get ignored, and it kept staged changes. But how do we unstash it? So to unstash it, yeah, it's a bit simpler. It is like it is an original git command actually, but I prefer even if it would be shorter than this, I still prefer to add those commands because they are speaking in my language. So I know that if I just stashed something, I want something to unstash, and I simply like it. I didn't save it. So yeah, it should return all the stuff. Yeah, here we go. All right, and another one is my favorite, is, you guess it, make uncommit. And this, I bet you Googled for it hundreds of times, like, because it simply doesn't make any sense. Like this is just some internal Git terminology, and you don't need to remember it all the time and I don't to remember it every single time I want to make something happen. So I just created this command for myself, and I just love it. And the same for resetting merge request in progress, because if you see that you like completely messed up your current situation with merge and you want to reset everything, I just do make unmerge. All right, and the last one related to Git and like the Git flow is this one. So imagine we finished our feature and we have a staging branch, and usually we just what I do in my Git flow, I simply want to merge existing branch to staging and then to deploy staging. And no, make merge to staging, and this is how it looks for me. So I really like the syntax. It's you remember like this idea that Ruby is developed for programmers' happiness. This makes me feel like it is also designed for program. We can design it for programmer happiness as well. We can have joyful command line. So, but to make it working, we need to do a little bit more. I wouldn't say magic, but more stuff. And actually, yeah, this is another good example that if you use spaces, the whole thing will not work. So if you try it, it will say missing separator. This is another downside of make, is that it is super strict about tabs, and it forces you to use tabs every single time. So if you get this strange error, it means either you missed this symbol or you missed tabulation somewhere. So what we are doing here, so this one, it means that we don't want to print this line. And here we use eval, which is kind of, I guess, built-in make meta function or something like this. And we want to record current branch into this variable here. And then we want to check out to the branch which was passed as argument here. And then once we are on this branch, we actually doing git merge, and this branch which was at the moment which was current, but currently current is staging. So let's actually try it. So make merge to stage. I'm not sure if there is a staging. Yeah, there is no staging branch, but we can merge to master. Yeah, so it worked. Yeah, it's actually like, it is not different from the current branch, but anyway. All right, so this is our Git flow. This is how most of my basic command look like. And what about Rails? So we have a lot of stuff in Rails, a lot of commands in Rails we need to run on a daily basis. And it looks like we are about to add more commands. And what I prefer to do is to actually keep my shortcuts in separate files. Let's actually do it. Let's take all the stuff which is related to Git and add a new file and put it here and call it make git mk git. Yeah, it should be fine. And in our make file, we just do include mk. Let's see if it works. Let's uncomment this and try to run it. Missing separator, so we interesting. Come on. Yeah, we just broke. For some reason, it's all the tabs have gone. So let's fix it. Yeah, it should work now. Yeah, it works. Perfect. So this is how you organize your shortcuts when you get a lot of them. And let me show you some more stuff. And also, I really like how it sounds. So, for example, make style. Make me some style. And it simply launches Rubocop. And let's try to run it actually. Make style. It runs Rubocop with autocorrection. So yeah, it actually does something. Yeah. Also, for example, make security. And notice this exclamation mark here. If I would, I sometimes have commands like this. And if I would have command like this would simply run Rubocop. And this is a Rubocop with autocorrection. So I basically use the same semantics we used to use in Ruby, but I use it in Make as well. So, and this one I also like. So there is a thing called bundle audit. I don't remember if it's a separate gem or it's a built-in feature, but there's no chances that you will remember how to call it. So, but if you call it make security, here you go. So also like make to be reset. So I will just, I will be explaining less and less because you already should understand most of it. And I will just copy and paste stuff. So here I just prefer to have more control over what I'm doing because sometimes I need to run seeds, sometimes I don't. And yeah, here, this is a shortcut to run migrations. This one, yeah, let me show it as well. So to have something like this, if I want to roll back 2 steps back, I have this. Yeah. Probably, yeah, and this one I like too. So, and it is a nice one. So remember when you run Rails roads, almost every single time you run this command, you run it like this, grab something, right? So because without it, it's almost useless. It prints too much stuff. And what I have here is this. So I simply have it built in, and what I have to type is make roads active. It didn't work. Why? Yeah, it works. So, and it simply runs already with grep. And if I don't pass anything, it works like it would work without grep. So this is a small change, but you will never but it really simplifies your life as a developer. And another trick I recently developed for myself is this one. So for example, you need to run tests, but you don't actually remember which test exactly you want to execute. So, but you remember it was about user. So you don't want to run the whole test suite. You don't remember the single test, but you remember that it is user related. So what I do is this. So it is test and question mark. And it is actually an example that you can actually use Ruby in your make files as well. So I spent, I don't know, 5 minutes developing this script and Googling how to do it, how to get a list of your tests. And I simply put it in my make file and I forgot about it. So now I simply run this every time. And what it does, it simply, it gets the list of all tests and it prints them. And then it does the same thing, but instead it executes them. Yeah, that's it. If I'm out of time, then please tell me. If not, then we can continue. But we are actually almost finished. So how I deploy stuff. So I showed you make deploy, but actually you might be deploying to production and staging servers. And the way I do it, I just developed something like this for myself. And I will just copy and paste a long list of shortcuts, of staging related shortcuts here. And here, and I will explain it one by one. So yeah, let's call it make staging MK.
We have more 10 minutes and then I ask you some questions, okay?
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So let's fix our tabs problem. So, and this is another example, very nice trick of make. You can simply make a kind of a chain of commands here. You can define those shortcuts separately, and you can have one meta command which will execute all them one by one. So make staging simply switches me to staging branch. Make update is simply merges all the recent changes from master to staging. It is just in case I forgot to merge them. This one runs all the tests. This one actually here it uses Docker because I usually use Docker Compose for development, but you could have something like this as well. It's up to you. Then we have git push here, and then actual deploy. So here we are using Heroku. So actual deploy means that we are pushing to some special Heroku branch. And also after pushing, we have to run migrations, and for that we have a separate command, staging migrate. So, and here I just have all these commands executed one by one. And if you think about it, you might actually notice that this replaces the whole CI system. We just implemented continuous integration, but without additional system. We just so it does everything we need. So it merges recent changes from master. It runs tests, and if it's fine, then it will be executed. I mean, deploy will be executed. Yeah. So sometimes you don't need CI system. You can be fine with a with just a make file. And I'm saying that ignoring the fact that I in GitLab I was actually I like GitLab very much. I love their CI, and while I was working there, I was promoting GitLab CI like crazy, and I still love it. But sometimes it's just an overkill. You just don't need it. Okay, so let me see if I have it here. What is it? No, it's another one. So this is, come on. Yeah, this one. So this is a project where I wanted to demonstrate. Can we have a terminal window? Yeah. So I wanted to demonstrate the way I work with Docker. So this is actually a remote machine. So you can see it here. It's a remote machine, and I open VS Code remote, and I simply run make start, and it doesn't work because we are in an incorrect folder. Make start, and it executes the whole thing. I don't have to remember exact syntax and exact names of the images. It simply does everything for me. And if I need another, if I need another window, I do a make bind, and it executes another console inside the Docker container for me. And there I can run make test or whatever I want, make server. So this is my workflow. So the way it looks is like this. We can return here, and again, I lost all the tabs, but so again, it's all about semantics. It's make up, make down, make bind, and make start simply does up and bind. And we also have restart where it's stop and start. And also I have this alias here in case I forget that I called it down. I have an alternative way to put it down. So I have make stop too. And actually, I recommend you, if you're not sure what would be the best shortcut, what would be the best name for a shortcut, just create like 2 of them or 3 of them. And later you just keep the one you like the most. You remember the first. And probably the last thing I wanted to demonstrate here. So you notice this make bind, and what it does, it binds, it opens me, it gives me access to development console. But also I have commands like this, bind production. So sometimes I want to be able to run something right on a staging server, and I call it bind staging just because I like this semantic. I don't want to, I don't care that here I run Docker and here it actually runs some Heroku command. Again, like I love my makefile as a layer of abstraction. I love my semantics and I want to keep it like this. So, and I recommend you to do it the same way. So this is mostly it. One more thing. So this is my recent discovery that actually it is not very convenient to have make files in your main repository like this, because you change your make files pretty often and they pollute your Git history. But of course, you don't want to Git ignore them. It is very important that they are in your version control, because this way you share those shortcuts with your colleagues so they don't waste their time as well. And the way I do it these days, I'm simply put all my make files into separate folder and into separate repository, and it looks like this. So I just move these files upper on one level and use them like this, and I commit them into separate repository. So, all right, this is a short review, a crash course into modern make for modern developers. And you might still have some questions. Why not rake? So I can show you why not, because why not yarn and why not bash scripts? To demonstrate it, I actually made an attempt to to make use of them. This is how the same kind of approach would look like with the package JSON. So you can do it, but it looks unnatural, it's inconvenient, and I'm afraid you won't be able to do all this beautiful like magic, where I showed you how like all those make variables, eval, and this kind of scripting. I think it will be very challenging to have the same experience here. Or for example, in rake file. So you can do it, of course, but you will end up writing a lot of Ruby code. You can easily see that it adds much more boilerplate than in makefile, and some things they don't even work, because this one I couldn't make it work. I wanted to this command to execute, test, and deploy one by one, but either it runs them in parallel or I simply couldn't figure out how it works. So, and for bash scripts, it requires even more work, because you have to create separate files. You have to put this line in every file. You have to do chmod for every file, and so on and so on. So I'm certain that if you would use shell files, you will never be as productive as you could be with make. So yeah, this is why not all these technologies. And actually, you shouldn't be even considering it because, for example, you decided to use rake, but then again, like in the usual Rails project, we have two stacks, JavaScript and Rails. So you already have two instruments, and make, in that sense, it plays the role of a glue between technologies. It's not a replacement to rake. It's not a replacement to yarn. You still use those tools the way they were designed, the way they were supposed to be used. But make plays a different role. So we are finishing, and principles. Please don't put any instructions in your README. Instead, put them into your makefile, because makefile can be your living documentation on how you do stuff in command line. It can replace a lot of documentation for you. And when you create your shortcuts, make sure you think about semantics first. It is really important that you think about what are you doing, but not how are you doing it. duplication is okay. As I said, if you're not sure how to name your shortcut, just create multiple shortcuts with duplication and decide about them later. Whenever you find yourself Googling for some tricky magical stuff you want to do in terminal, and you look for in Stack Overflow, just copy and paste this into your make file, put the link so that you don't have to do it twice. Yeah, so that's it. You can find, I will post these links into the chat actually, and you will find most of the stuff I was showing to you in this link. And this is actually the website of the whole approach I was telling you about. And this is my personal website where you can find more links about like Rails related stuff as well, and my other activities. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks so much. It's wonderful presentation, man. People have clapped for Ivan in chat, please. Wow, it's nice. Luis and Gustavo and Sandra, and nice. We have some questions, Ivan.
Sure.
Jonathan asked, how do you maintain privilege and sensitivity keys?
What can you repeat?
How do you maintain the privilege and sensitivity keys?
This is a separate topic.
Okay.
They don't actually have anything in common with make. So the way I usually use Ansible, and in Ansible I have Vault, and I store everything there. And if you have to use something like this in your make, I'm not sure. So if you have some specific scenario, you can reach me after my talk. Yeah, I can answer you personally. Okay. On Twitter. Yeah, let me show you my Twitter.
It's because people talk the environment variables and other things to make this not visible for.
So yeah, this is my Twitter. You can
okay.
You can reach me there. I will be happy to answer you like on specific scenarios, specific questions.
Okay, and can I create conditionals like more complex bash functions in the same command?
You can. So actually the original make is all about this kind of stuff. It just always makes me really confused, this bash syntax, and I prefer not to use it. But you can use all the logic and make your make files look very complex too. But I prefer, whenever I find myself wanting to add some complicated logic, I would prefer to use some small Ruby script and use the Rails runner, because it's just so much easier to read.
Nice. And the last one is the another questions the people asked it's okay. The last one is how you do to catch the errors on make files, and when they got error in make files, what you do to catch these errors?
No, I don't do anything. So this is I don't do anything. So it's not the place where like I don't do this kind of level I don't add that much complexity into my make files, so that I want to catch errors there. If something is failing, I will just take a look what command failed, and I will just debug it, and that's it. So I won't be adding error catching.
Nice. Another question, people. Your presentation is based on a user case in some then or your company, this case you presented?
So most of the shortcuts, I like, the whole thing was developed for 2 years. So from time to time I become with new shortcuts, and I try to compile them into a single approach, and I try to use this approach in all of the projects where I'm programming. So yeah, sometimes it becomes developed in one project, and then it gets into all of them.
And the last one, what is your VS Code theme? What's the theme you use in your VS Code?
I'm not sure. Probably this one, Alabaster. I think so, but I'm not sure.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
Nice
thank you. Thank you for having me. Have a good day. Have a nice rest of the conference.